President-elect said he will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States. Here with us, the senior editor for Kelley Blue Book, Brian Moody. Brian, good to see you again. So what are we talking about here? Of course, always a pleasure. Talk to us about how much the price can go up on American cars across the board if these tariffs do eventually go into effect.
Right. So the difficult thing about this is that it's not just whole cars. It's important to remember that the current administration already raised tariffs to 100% on electric cars and components that could possibly come from China. That's what this is designed to do, is to eliminate sort of a Canada or Mexico backdoor for Chinese goods that the government feels as unfair labor practices and those kinds of things. So it could result in an uptick in price for consumers. The problem is there's already downward pressure on new car prices because most consumers have said cars are just too expensive. So there's going to have to be a deal. My guess is this is a negotiating tactic and it's not actually going to come to fruition. But if it were, then the consumer would have to absorb some of that cost.
So if it were, what should consumers know if they're thinking about buying a car in the next year?
Look for slight price increases. Look for prices on electric cars to go up because a lot of those components, what we're talking about. However, a lot of those cars that we're talking about right now are currently heavily incentivized, either from taxpayer-funded incentives or from the manufacturers themselves. So if you're in that market and you're looking at, say, an electric car, for example, I would maybe speed that up just to be sure. I don't think that this is going to result in any kind of gigantic catastrophe or anything like that. But if prices go up on an already expensive thing, you might be able to defray that by starting your shopping journey right now.
Okay, that makes sense. I am curious. I know you're saying this probably won't happen. It won't be a huge price jump, but how are automakers reacting to the possibility of it happening?
Well, one thing automakers have been doing for some time, and this will help, is they've been looking to move production and the means of production and the pipeline inside the US. For example, this is not necessarily tariff related, but it could have a good result. The Hyundai Motor Group, which has the brands of Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis, have a huge factory near Savannah, Georgia, that sources all those things from inside the US. That's the desired effect here. Similar to the Trade Act in 1974 that saw Japanese automakers move their production inside the US, that's the desired goal. And that's good in the end because it results in American jobs, it results in raising the tax base in those communities. But that's a long-term gain, and that sometimes with long-term gains, there are short-term pains.
You mentioned EV prices may go up. What about foreign-made cars like Volkswagen and Toyota that are actually built in Mexico and Canada? Should we assume the same price hike will go up on those cars as well, on those vehicles?
It's possible because most people don't realize just how many cars we have here in the US are assembled in Mexico and Canada. The hard part with this is going to be when there's, let's say, Chinese parts included in the whole. So we're not necessarily talking about the whole, and that's been covered by the current administration. The incoming administration will likely keep the recently raised tariffs in place. I can't see them undoing that. But when you talk about parts are going to be tariffed or taxed, that's hard to unwind because then automakers may have to slow production to figure out, where do I get that fastener or where do I get that bolt that we used to source someplace else?
Brian, I want to switch gears very quickly. We all saw the devastation from Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Now they're big money cars, luxury cars. We're talking Lamborghinis, McLarens, Ferraris damaged by those storms. They're hitting the auction block. Some starting as low as $16,000. I mean, look, that seems like a bargain to me for a Ferrari. But what do you say to buyers who are considering buying these cars at auction?
There's an easy rule to judge that. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And let's just say any car, no matter how it's powered, no matter what brand, whether it's diesel, gas, electric, doesn't matter. Any car that's been submerged in water, it's ruined. You cannot salvage it. You cannot bring it back to life. Now, can you use little pieces here and there? Can you use a bolt or a wheel? Maybe, but the whole car is done. And there are telltale signs that a car has been submerged. But if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Oh. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.